Hi, it's Lee from ColouringQueen.net, and today I want to show you Fairy Tales by Emelie Oberg, and that was originally released in Sweden under the name of Sagolikt. And Emelie is one of my favourite artists, so I was super pleased to receive this book from the publishers Gibbs Smith. And Gibbs Smith are publishing some of the Swedish colouring books that we know and love as English imprints. So let's see how it's different from the original Swedish version. Now, the first thing that you may notice is that the background on the cover is a lot whiter on the English edition, and it's an off-white on the Swedish edition. Just a slight different shade of white there. On the English edition, the name on the bottom here is Deer, as in the deers, and on the Swedish edition it's the printing company, which is Printworks. The name is different, so Sagolikt in Swedish and Fairy Tales in English, but still with the same bunting, although they've had to adjust the bunting size to fit the longer name in on the English imprint. Now, one thing that you may notice is that on the Swedish edition there was a lot of deep and bold black outlines on the leaves, and on the English edition they're far more subtle and a lighter shade. The colours in the flowers, etc., slightly different shade, or just one tone light, but other than that they're really pretty well the same. The gold on the Swedish edition is slightly different shade of gold foiling than on the English edition, just noticeable on these flowers and whatnot, but pretty well the same. Now, on the spine, on the English edition we've got a finer font and a finer line. Then on the Swedish edition, it's a bolder gold foil font. So this is just a little bit finer, and it's just, one tone lighter in the mint. We've got the publisher's name in full down the bottom here with the red logo, and the Printworks gold foil for the Swedish edition. Now we finally can read what the back blurb says, which is fantastic. We've got the English translation there, and down here there's a difference with the publisher's name down the bottom, and Gibbs Smith haven't done that on their version. Now, the same goes for the back cover, so the leaves have more bolder black on them than in the English edition, and the gold foiling looks slightly different shade. Looking inside and side by side, on the Swedish edition we have this lovely fold-out flap with some Swedish writing there, a gorgeous little bird, fold-out card cover with a lovely illustration, and of course the flagging there with the title of the book. If we have a look at the English edition, we have again the same, and the same illustration has been used, and the only difference is we have a different title, and the bunting is a little bit smaller to take into account that there's more letters here. Got the publisher's logo down the bottom. Now, this information is also obviously in English, and we've got our gorgeous nameplate page, which is also now in English. So just looking at the original, we can see that they're both exactly the same, except it's in English. Now, the only other difference is at the back. So at the back cover, this is Swedish, and it's a dedication, I believe, to the artist's daughter, and there's some information about her there. And if we have a look at the English edition, we can see that that dedication is now in English, and the information about the artist is also in English, with the same lovely fold-out illustration there for us to colour in. So that's the only differences between the English and the Swedish edition. And if we just randomly open it up, you can see that the paper in the English edition is slightly more off-white than the paper in the Swedish edition, which was more of a cool white. So it's a off-white 150 GSM, whereas this one's more of a cool white colour. And with white, there's, you know, so many different shades of white, it's ridiculous. So that's the only difference. All of the illustrations are in the same order as they were in the Swedish edition, and they're all the same illustrations. So let's start from the beginning and have a look at fairy tales. Now, these pages here, this one's probably the best one to test out your markers and your mediums on without it damaging any of the other illustrations. Now, all of the illustrations are printed on both sides of the paper, and many do run to the spine. Now, because this is only new and I've only opened it twice, the binding hasn't really relaxed that much, but it should as soon as it's used a little bit more. And as this is one of my favourite books, I imagine it will get quite a lot of use. So Emelie has a way of drawing that's extremely whimsical. There's lots of cute little creatures and detailed drawings in her work, but it's also very cutesy in a lot of respects, like the swan with the little crown and her eyes closed. And these gorgeous little curled up creatures. And they're often wearing scarves. And when she does people, they all tend to have these circled cheeks, which are quite doll-like, and that's a feature with all of the people that she draws throughout. Now, this book is really good because it's got a lot of different types of illustrations in it, like there's frogs with crowns and dolls, but because it's whimsical, it doesn't have to look like it should in real life, so you can just colour it the way you want with whatever colours and not feel pressure to make it look realistic. The other thing about Emelie is that she does draw a great variety of flowers, and so you're not always colouring the same thing. See how she's named the lemonade, and she also has a lot of strawberries in her work. She must like them. These cute little creatures and teacups, lots of crystals to colour in, lots of fanciful things like dresses and cotton reels and teacups. It's all very whimsical. And I believe that the Swedish, or the original book, I believe it means fabulous. I'm not too sure, but it certainly is fabulous with the different types of drawings that are in it. And see how the little birdie's got a little kerchief on. Everything's got some sort of whimsical element to it. Now, the illustrations are very detailed, but there's also lots of large spaces within them. So if you do have minor visual impairment or motor skill issues, there should be several things that you should be able to colour without feeling too challenged by it. And if things are too fiddly, like, you know, changing colours for all these things, you can just do the one colour over all of it and sort of not worry about extras. Now, once this binding relaxes, it's going to be easier to get into the edges here, but you'll have to wait until you hear that familiar crack, you know, to know that it's sort of fully relaxed. Lots of gems and crystals here to colour in. These gorgeous animals that, you know, often have their eyes closed. It's very cute. So this one's sleeping as well. And of course we've got bunny rabbits. I guess in Sweden even the animals get cold, and they've got to wear a little scarf as well. Now if you need inspiration for colouring this, I've got a Pinterest board set up for Sagolikt, and you'll find lots of coloured images from great colourists on there that you can be inspired by, or just see what they look like when people have coloured them in, and see how they've used the front cover, and it also has deer written on it. And we've got that dedication to Elise at the back. And there we have our beautiful English imprint of fairy tales based on the original Sagolikt from Sweden. The links to buy this book are below the video, and until next time, happy colouring.